All right, so just want to make a quick video. Forgive the shirt, it's got cat hair on it because if any of you are cat owners, you know that as soon as you put something dark on, that's when they want to be really, 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 really close to you. So, she did it and then walked off like, my work is done here. Your shirt is all, messed up now. But I just want to talk about how narcs are liars. Okay, I don't know if you guys saw that thing. Oprah has a new podcast apparently. Um, that looks like a mini TV show. It doesn't look like any podcast I've seen. But she just popped up out of the woodwork. I thought she was retired and gone, and then I never really followed Oprah like that. But she's got a podcast, and on this podcast, one of the most recent episodes, they talked about estranged parents and is estrangement a trend, and they all quote the statistics: 1 in 3 Americans is estranged from a person, and what's happening to make people make these choices, and on this show, inevitably, they had the people that I believe are in the right. The lady who wrote, Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I'm sure I butchered the name, but I'm sure you know what book I'm talking about. If you're into studying about this stuff. And then you had another guy who was like a psychologist or a therapist, whatever he was, and his child had got no contact with him, and they had reestablished contact, but he was there basically to gaslight all the kids who had been estranged because his kid estranged from him. So he has this innate negative view of it. To get to the lying, there was a woman on there, and she's one of these TikTok estranged moms, these faux celebrities, these people who, discover social media, miss being young, miss being attractive, miss having attention. So, under the guise of wanting to, work things out with their kids, which they don't, they just want to talk shit about their kids, they come up with these TikTok channels and these YouTube channels, and they essentially try to rip off what I and many other people who challenge narcissism do. Only it's very clear with the live, laugh, love posters and all the tchotchkes in the background. They're nuttier than squirrel shit. They're not very good at it. They get ratioed in the comments. Anybody can see through it. What this narc said, okay, was that she was estranged from her daughter, and she's not estranged from her sons. She's good with her sons. Every time I hear that, I think son husband, but that's just me. I've been doing this too long. Um, but she's estranged from her daughter, and it's been 3 years. And this isn't the first time the daughter estranged. This is the third time she's estranged. So, on the third time, what this woman came on Oprah to say was a whole lot of nothing. Just like she says in her TikTok videos, except for the shit talking about her daughter. What she said is, I just don't know why. I just don't know why. I don't know why my kid, doesn't want to talk to me. This is the third time, and I don't understand. And I mean, our last dispute was something super small, and I just don't understand. And I wasn't a fan of Oprah's conduct during this show because Oprah is an abused child herself, and her sitting there, with the question mark above her head, like, I wonder why people are going no contact. I don't know. Just my mom just let me get beat, and I was touched inappropriately, and my mom abandoned me, and then they made me sleep on the porch because my skin is too dark. But I don't understand why these kids are doing this. That blew my mind. I'm like, motherfucker. But Oprah, to her credit, said to her, okay, so you're saying it was a small thing. What was the small thing? The words you just said was that it was a small thing. And what the lady's like, well, it's you know, suffice it to say she didn't get her way. Lies by omission. See, we don't call people liars unless like it's a very obvious situation where it's like, well, the sky is red. It's like, no, obviously the sky is not red, it's blue. The sky is fucking blue. I'm looking right at the sky, it's blue. You're telling me it's red. That's a lie. We feel comfortable calling our parents a liar in that situation, but we come up with other words to soften the blow of what they are outside of that. Oh, they gaslight. Oh, they manipulate. Oh, they do this. If you are undertaking an action that is meant to deceive or meant to cause pain, you are a liar. You are a fucking liar. They're liars. Just call them liars. If it was such a small thing, you should be able to tell me. You know what I don't do? Hide small things. If there's an issue in my life and I'm talking to a friend or an acquaintance and I'm like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal, but this and this happened. I don't say, yeah, it's not a big of a deal and then end it. And then end it because you know what that says? It obviously was a big deal. And what the fuck does that even mean? She didn't get her way. That could mean, oh, hey, mom, I asked for steak, but you made chicken. Or that could mean, can you stop trying to sleep with my boyfriend? Can you stop having that weird uncle that touched me over when you're watching my child? I told you not to do that. That could also be her not getting her way. So they leave everything purposefully vague. Purposefully fucking vague. And another gem on this show, right? More manipulation, more lying, more bullshit, was the therapist whose daughter went no contact and is now back in contact with him for some reason. What he says to this young couple who's estranged from both the groom's family and the bride's family because of various reasons. You can watch the show and see it. I think they've got legitimate reasons. I think all of us have legitimate reasons. I think I don't get to be the judge of what's illegitimate because I'm not God and I'm not better than anyone. But what he says to them, he's like, so does your child, your recently, delivered child, does she have any dealings with her grandparents at all? Do you just, drop her off and not speak? And they're like, well, no, we're no contact, therefore our child is no contact, which makes sense, right? Just as an aside, if you as my drunk dad, right? Let's say I had that, as many of you had that. If you as my drunk dad punched me in the chest every day during my adolescence and called me a faggot, guess what? You would not see your grandchildren. You're not a safe person. You're a volatile person. And you have a substance abuse issue that you allow, let me say that again, allow to cause you to mistreat people. So you're not going to see your fucking grandchild ever the fuck again. You're not going to have the opportunity to do to them what you did to me. But what he says to this young couple is, the only thing you're modeling for your kid is that, when we have a disagreement with people, we should just get rid of them. That's all you're modeling for your kid. That's not conflict resolution. That's the opposite of conflict resolution. Is that what you want to model for your child? All of the tactics, the guilt, the you're a bad parent, the subtle threat of, okay, your child will grow up and do this to you, which they never will concede won't happen unless you're a shit parent. So he's basically threatening these people and guilt tripping these people and leaning on them. This is a father who's still abusing his daughter, but he's found a way to rope her back in. Maybe it's the inheritance. Maybe it's something she's sticking it out for whatever reason. But this is not a healed person, because to say that to someone when you're not living in their skin and you have not had to deal with the toxicity of the narcs that are in their life is wild. I don't get to tell a battered woman, well, he didn't hit you that hard. Come on. He threw you on the ground one time. Yeah, I mean, he pulled you by the hair all through the house. He did some questionable stuff to you when nobody was looking. But, I mean, was it that bad? It wasn't that bad. You don't have to get a restraining order. You don't have to call the cops. This is fine. What are you modeling, okay, by walking away from your marriage with this toxic, abusive fucking Neanderthal who feels like your face is a punching bag? What are you modeling to your children? That what? If somebody breaks your orbital socket bone, that's an issue? What are you modeling? That's how ridiculous, okay, these people sound. Then it went on to another lady who chose to estrange from her son. Okay, this was another telling one, another weirdo, another manipulator, another fucking liar. This woman stands up and says, oh, I went away from my son because of threats of violence and this and that, and he just kept threatening violence on me. Okay, so this is a black mother, and that matters because the deification of the black mother in the black community is so obvious that I think every other race sees it. How we deify black mothers, whether they were good or not. They could have been Claire Huxtable or they could have been Christian Rock. And nobody gives a shit. She's black. She's your mom. She's perfect, right? She stands up. Oh yeah, he's threatening me with violence. Okay, what boy mom, to use that ridiculous term, gets threatened by their son? What black guy do you see just openly going around like, I'm gonna punch my mama in the face? I'm gonna run a fade with my mom. How many black guys do you see that? And when I talk to black guys, they'll tell me the most horrendous shit and be like, yeah, but I love my mom and she was going through a little something. They make excuses. You don't meet too many black men who have ill intentions or physical violence, intentions of physical violence that they want to perpetrate on their mother. So my feeling is this, and there's no excuse for putting violence on people unless you have to defend yourself. I will never ever say that's okay, but you don't get to a destination without a plane ride. How did he get to that point to where he wanted to fuck you up like that? How did he get to the point to where he superseded all of the bullshit and the culture and the race and all of the shit from society about how we should deify the mother because, she laid down and got inseminated and then pushed something out of her? He got over all of that and said, Mom, I'm going to fuck you up. And we don't get a reason why. We don't get a source of the conflict. If somebody threatens you, they usually say because of X, Y, Z. If I steal from somebody and they say the next time I see you, Holden, I'm fucking you up. You stole my guitar. Guess what? He just gave me a reason. There's a reason. Nobody's going to just beat your ass for a reason. For no reason. I'm sorry. There's always an antecedent. As I said, you don't get anywhere without a plane ride or a car ride. You did something, to arrive at that. And then she said the wildest shit. She goes, why is it that these estranged kids get praised for going no contact? But if a parent gets praised for going no contact, or if a parent goes no contact, we don't get praised, right? So people tell on themselves with the words they choose. Nobody is praising us estranged kids. In fact, they're calling us short-sighted, myopic. They're relegating our mental health needs as a trend. Like a new shirt is a trend, a new club is a trend, a new food is a trend. They're basically saying that no contact is what avocado toast was like 10 years ago. That's what we're saying. So we're minimized, we're shouted down, the ever popular, but that's your mom, that's your dad. Nobody's praising us. I've had the people in my life who I thought were very sensitive and attuned to issues and very emotionally intelligent tell me that I was wrong from walking away from my mom who brought weirdos and pedos into the house. I'm wrong. I'm not giving her grace. So we're not fucking praised. We are fucked with. That's why we've chosen to do this, to make videos, to talk to each other, to support one another. Nobody is praising no contact. People are agreeing and saying, yes, this is also my experience, and we're getting validation out of that, but there's no praise involved. So the fact that she chose that word makes me feel like this is a person who wants adulation. Had she said, where's the support for parents who choose to go no contact, then that can make a little bit of sense. That can make a little bit of sense, be a mother and you feel like you're the odd man out because all the other mothers are in their children's lives, or you're a father, you feel like the odd man out. I can see why you would need support. I still am going to assume you're the problem. And I think that support should come in you not being within 200 feet of that kid and you being in therapy for the rest of your fucking life and unpacking your bullshit for the rest of your life, just like a drunk has to be in AA for the rest of his life, or understand for his life that he is an alcoholic. There's no change. You are a predator, right? That's the support you need to get. You don't need praise. That lets me know the whole social media thing is not about, hey, I see you, you're a mom like me. The social media thing is, as I said before, to relive their youth, to get attention. That's why they come on and they do the fucking stupid filters and they do all the things and they got the live, laugh, love tchotchkes and the cheap shit in the background and they got, oh, family is everything in the background to set a scene. You know, when you're trying to be a fake person, you know what they do in a movie? They set a scene, they block the scene, they bring in all the artwork because they want to make the place look a certain way, because they want to produce a mood and set the scene, because they're actors. And what are actors? If you boil down what they do, they're fucking liars. No, you're not Julius Caesar, you're just reading Shakespeare. They set the scene. It's obvious that they're fucking liars. I don't know. I just saw that. I just wanted to rant a little bit. The world is going to keep disrespecting us, and they're going to keep platforming these people because it's pity points. And it's going to be a daytime TV style. Like Oprah is trying to make this pet podcast into like a daytime TV style. Because quite frankly, she's not a good interviewer. She's not a good interviewer, so she needs the audience interaction. She needs all that. In my opinion, Oprah is not a good interviewer. I've seen her be quite rude to people. I've seen her cut people off when they're in the middle of making a good point. She just seems like she can't be bothered, right? So all these narcs are going to go onto these platforms that resemble daytime TV because that's from their heyday, when they were sitting at home on the couch eating bonbons, okay, watching Oprah and jerking off to the emotional porn that is Oprah. And, oh, my dad died of fucking Ebola, but he touched me when I was 5. And then they all sit around and fucking, you know, to that emotional porn. So what they're going to do is go onto platforms like this because that speaks to their age range. And that speaks to what they like and what they're used to. And they now have a sense of power. Okay? But the beauty of this is, and the reason why I'm not worried about them, you know, being more of a presence online is because the comments always tell you what you need to know. The comments always tell you what you need to know, because the thing about it is, and this is why ultimately their movement will fail. It'll get big for a while, but it'll fail because they're going to find that they can't stand up to questioning. Real quick, I woke up and I had something suggested on my feed, excuse me. This woman was on there talking about how all 3 of her daughters, not 1, not 2, but 3, all 3 of them do not speak to her. And she just doesn't know why. And then she threw out reasons. No, you know, oh, I came out to my kids, you know, after my marriage, I realized that I was a lesbian. And, oh, you know, and that's a part of the estrangement. These kids don't care that she's a lesbian. I guarantee you they don't care. 1, most women don't give a shit about that. 2, they're not really in the age range to be all homophobic like that. Nobody cares about lesbians like that. In this day and age, that's one of the most boring things you could be. Now everybody's a fucking water gender and shit, and fucking star gender, and fucking sofa gender, and fucking blender gender, okay? Not just I identify as a man or a woman, but like shit that makes no sense. So nobody gives a shit about you being a lesbian. Least of all people from the younger generation. I would bet my bottom dollar on it. Maybe they give a shit about the way you did it. I had an acquaintance whom I knew who was like 10, 11 years old when his mom moved across the country to be with her, I got something here, sorry, with her lesbian lover that she met online. It's the funniest story. It's sad, but it's funny. She was on a Judi Dench fan site online. These people just love Judi Dench. Oh, we love Judi Dench. You know, notes on the scandal. She played the queen. Oh, we love Judi Dench. Can't get enough of Judi Dench, you know, the British actress. And she met a woman of similar opinion online, and they fell in love. And she up and leaves her kids to go be with this bitch. And you know, to say nothing of the abandonment, she picked the fucking zero. I met this woman. I had fucking Thanksgiving with this woman because I knew the guy through my ex-girlfriend. And we were all having Thanksgiving. And, you know, she picks this zero who's one of these people. You meet him, and in the first 5 seconds of meeting him, I have sciatica. I have gout. I have IBS. I have atrial fibrillation. I have, you know, I have a bad toe. I have a bad hip. Everything hurts. I just had a colonoscopy. I'm telling you, literally, I walked up to this woman, stuck my hand out, said, "Hi, I'm Holden," and I got the whole spiel, her whole medical history. And mind you, I wasn't even a nurse at that time, so it made no sense for her to tell me all this. Okay, the type of person where, as we were sitting down and we're all sitting in front of this beautiful, scrumptious food we're about to eat, we got to hear about the colonoscopy and the process and the discomfort and the results. We got to hear about all this nonsense. So you left your kids to be with a zero. So maybe it wasn't the lesbianism, because again, nobody gives a shit about you being a lesbian. Maybe it was the fact that, you know, you fucked up, you left your kids behind, you did whatever. That's what my mind imagines. Another thing she had going on was, oh, my daughters are so evil. You know, another lie. You know, I moved from Florida. I was selling my house. And, you know, I just was moving, and I moved in with one of my daughters because inevitably these people need your help. And, you know, I was just trying to get back on my feet, and I was selling the house back in Florida. And, you know, just out of nowhere, my daughter stopped the sale on the house. And I was really relying on that money. And what she thinks, what this woman imagined when she said that was like, people would be like, oh, what a cold-hearted bitch your daughter is, taking money, basically food, out of their own mother's mouth, not letting you sell your house. And what my mind imagined, and what a few other people said in the comments, okay, which is why these people will never prevail, is nobody can stop you from selling your house. How am I, if you, look, I've never purchased a house. If I'm wrong, correct me. But if I have a house and I want to sell my house, and I got the title of that motherfucker, it is my house. I'm in good standing with my house, and I want to sell it, legally you can't stop me. Here's what my mind imagines. The house was never the mother's. The father divorced her because these people, you know, toxic, you want to get away. He divorced her. She was never on the title for the house, never on any documentation for the house. He figures out he doesn't want to reward bad behavior. So yeah, you could stay in the house, but you're not keeping the house. You're not going to be able to turn a profit from this house. And he puts the house in one of his daughter's names. And when the daughter catches wind of the fact that this mother is trying to sell the house from out underneath her, she's like, no, we're going to put the whole kibosh on that. You're not selling this fucking house. This is my house. And I've been generous enough to let you stay in the house. Think about how stupid and short-sighted that lie is. I collect guitars. I have a lot of very nice, beautiful, premium guitars. They're my pride and joy, okay? If I wanted to sell my made in Japan Les Paul custom ripoff, if I wanted to do that, the guy living next door to me can't say, hey, Holden, I don't think that's not going to happen right now. Let's rethink that. It's my property. They're big liars, and they're so used to lying to people and believing it, because what they do is, in person, they're very effective because they can play on your heartstrings, and you feel more pressured in person to show sympathy and empathy and charity. But when you're online and you're talking to us like we're idiots, and we can pause and stop and think and not have to see your stupid fucking filter face with your SSRI eyes, When we stop and think for a second, we're like, how the fuck does somebody stop you from selling your house? That's not your fucking house. You're a fucking thief. And all three of them don't talk to you? What's the common denominator? You. They're all liars. This is getting too long, but I think we all understand.